Hey, this is Gurds Hundal, and welcome to the Inner Light Project. This show is for anyone who's wanting to lead a happier, healthier, and enlightened life. Create more self-love, inject more joy and abundance into their daily life. Join me for inspiring interviews and spiritual topics so you can shine your inner light. Hello and welcome to this podcast. My name is Gurds Hundal and oh my gosh, I am so excited to be here with you. I've been away for a few months. Yes, I've had a lot of messages asking, where has the podcast? Where have you gone, Gurds? I've missed the episodes. And to be honest, I've had the biggest death and rebirth the last few months than I've ever had in my entire life. I've really met with the darkness, the dark night of the soul, and really releasing patterns that no longer exist in my life and situations and things. And it's just been so powerful. It's not just been a death and a rebirth. It's been a very metamorphosed feeling where I have just felt like things just shift off me, and situations and emotions and feelings just raising to the surface. They're wanting to be cleared. A lot of my inner child wounds came up. Now, some of you know that I left a long-term relationship last year, and it's been an interesting journey. We are still friends. We have been on a journey together. However, it's been the hardest journey as well, because when we are used to somebody, we then get used to the habits, the behaviors, the feelings, the emotions. And when I had to let it go last year, it was like, who am I? What am I? And even though I had done some of the biggest, darkest, deepest work before I met this person, I started my journey in 2012. I thought I had actually met myself, but that wasn't the case. Because when you're in a relationship, you actually meet your deepest, darkest self. You are triggered, things come up to the surface, there's things that need to let go. And I didn't know how many wounds I had of my childhood that were being raised to the surface. Things like betrayal, anger, resentment, so many things raised to the surface. And it wasn't just me, it was for their side as well. And sometimes we don't know how to explain it or understand it. But when I stepped back, I started to see why I was angry, why I was upset, why was I getting emotional? Why did I feel so angry and betrayed? And things did happen in the situation. There were lies being told, not just him, but also people around him. And it was heartbreaking. And I let it slide for a little bit. And I'm not that kind of person. And here I was suddenly betraying myself. And it got to a point where I kept thinking, no, things will change, things will get better. And again, I'm not this kind of person that will take that. And I've always been a person that will tell other people not to do that. And for the first time in my life, I experienced this. And it was so interesting how it was linked to what I grew up with as well. Forgiving and forgetting, the pattern getting bigger, the disrespect getting bigger. Think people overstepping the mark, not just them, but around them, extended family members thinking it's okay to ask and demand and disrespect me. And I had to really sit with all of that. Because we can just blame the other person for everything. They did this to me. They made me feel this way. But actually, when we sit with it, you might think, okay, they betrayed you. Yes, situations do happen. People lie, people cheat, things like that. But when did you start betraying yourself? Right? And I'm going to say that again. When did you start betraying yourself? Because the moment you realize when you started betraying yourself, you take your power back. Because each of us have a role to play in a situation. We can blame that person for everything, but actually, where does that stem from? Does that come from your childhood? Did somebody betray you when you were growing up? Did a friendship betray you? Did somebody hurt you? Did somebody in the work environment hurt you? And when we don't heal those wounds, we attract those in a partner, or we attract those in situations around us. And those patterns will keep repeating and repeating until we say enough is enough. And when you notice the moment there is being disrespect, you nip it in the bud there and then. Because if you don't nip it in the bud there and then, they'll think, oh, I've got free reign now. I can keep testing the waters. I will keep pushing their buttons. I will keep lying. I'll keep manipulating. I'll keep betraying. I'll keep pushing and pushing until this person snaps. But then who looks like the crazy person? You, right? But actually, nobody knows what happens behind closed doors and what the person's been doing to you. However, you also play a role in the situation, because if you're allowing them, enabling them, and people around are enabling them to just do whatever they want to you, there's an issue there. And it's looking back within you. When did you start betraying yourself? When did you stop loving yourself? When did you stop putting yourself to the highest version, biggest version of yourself? And when you sit with that, my gosh, it's so heavy, so draining. And especially if you've never had support growing up, it's even harder, because you're used to that person that was your rock, your supportive person. They were here to help you. And suddenly they're gone. But they're also the person that's causing you so much pain. And people around you, forget them, don't worry about it, you're amazing. But then you're still drawn to that pain, because that's the pain that you grew up with, right? And a lot of us are living in chaos emotionally. Work-wise, amazing. Women are doing better than ever before, generations before, right? But there's still so much chaos within women. And women are the gatekeepers of wisdom and abundance and divine feminine energy and creativity and freedom and liberation. But we're not tapping into that. We're tapping into these heavy, toxic, masculine, work hard, burn ourselves to the floor, drain ourselves, be disrespected in relationships, let people walk over us, people pleaser, sacrificer. But that's not who we are. And then we think, why are we feeling broken? Why are we feeling hurt? Why are we feeling disrespected? Because we are enabling this, because we haven't sat down and met this newer version of ourselves that needs to be peeled off. The layers need to come off. The trauma, the pain, the hurt, the anguish. And then we need to just sit with that. Because when we feel and then we're able to deal, then we heal our trauma. We can run around like chaos. And usually when we have chaos, our mind is chaos, everything's chaos. It's because we are holding on to something that we need to let go of. And so I was holding on to so much baggage that I didn't even know. Yet I've done so much inner work in the last 12 years. It's beyond me. But this relationship taught me so much about myself and so much what I don't want and what I do want. And when you enter situations at different stages of your life, in your 20s, you're still trying to figure yourself out. You're making, and it's normal to make some mistakes. I just wanted to say that first. It's absolutely normal to make mistakes. Now, if you grew up being told mistakes is bad and that you should know better, that's not life. Because everyone makes mistakes. Even our parents make mistakes. Our teachers make mistakes. Our friends make mistakes. Our friendship circles make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but it's what we do with those mistakes after. Do we take accountability for our actions? Do we learn from it? Do we overcome it? That's the key. What was the wisdom behind that mistake? Right? But if we keep shaming ourselves or guilting ourselves for the mistakes we've made, we will never move forward in our life. We will sit there in resentment, anger, shame, and that will just mirror in all areas of our life. And so I had a lot of shame and anger, and I've not had that since 2012. I had it briefly when I was diagnosed with my health condition in 2017, when I felt my whole life was falling apart. But actually that was my biggest breakthrough, because I needed to slow down at that time, because I was a workaholic, I was burnt out, I was living off 3 hours sleep for several years. And the kidney problem at the time was there to slow me the fuck down and say to me, calm down. You cannot live like this moving forward. You will damage yourself. You won't be here if you don't slow down. And so this next rebirth that I had was, is this how you want your life to look like? Is this how you want your business to look like? What does freedom mean to you? What does time mean to you? What does respect mean to you? How are you going to respect yourself moving forward? And when are you going to stop betraying yourself? When are you going to start putting yourself first? And I really had to sit down with these emotions and things, and that came up. And it was just, even just talking about it, it's like, it was heartbreaking, And I was in chaos, which I haven't done in years, because I'm very balanced and calm. Ever since I had my operation, I learned to slow down. But in this process in the last few months, I suddenly just had chaos. And I kept meeting chaotic people with so much trauma and issues, and it was just things thrown on me. And it was like, whoa. And usually I only just deal with that with my clients. But what was happening wherever I went, people were telling me, and that's part of being an empath, by the way. But I had learnt tools already to protect myself from this. And, I would not listen to something if I don't want to. I would just kindly say, sorry, I've got a lot going on, or I'm just feeling tired, or whatever I was feeling in that moment. But I found myself the last few months just taking on everybody else's story and taking on their issues when I was trying to process my own. And it was only a few weeks ago I sat with her and I went, oh gosh, what am I doing to myself? I'm falling back into an old pattern that I was in back in 2012. And so I really had to sit with that and realize that that's not me anymore. And I don't need to become that. I need to come back to the stillness. I need to come back into the calmness. And you see, it doesn't matter how much inner work you've done. There's always something to learn, always something to grow on. We are always evolving into a higher, newer being, a higher frequency of ourselves. And so what I realized is I've done so much inner work, mind-wise, spiritually-wise, but physically I haven't worked on my body as much. Because since when 2015 happened, I had my health condition, my body slowed down. Suddenly I was fatigued, I was tired, I couldn't function the way I was before. When actually used to have so much energy. I used to run around. I actually did gymnastics for 13 years of my life. I loved tennis. I loved just running around, rounders. I would love just dancing around, being silly. Just lots of different sports and running. I used to run around the river and just whatever just felt good for my body. But when I got sick, I couldn't do those things. I would get tired walking for 10 minutes, or I get tired carrying some supermarket bags. And so I physically wasn't strong as what I thought I was. But when I left last year, my body had to learn to become strong. It had to do things that it hadn't been able to do for years. And then in these last few months, I realized that my body was still holding on to anger and resentment and trauma. I might have let go of it mentally, but physically I hadn't. And so I really had to slow down, go back into nature again. And I love nature because nature has always nourished me. And nature will always nourish you because it's Mother Nature. Mother Nature teaches us stillness. Mother Nature teaches us grounding. Mother Nature teaches us patience and gratitude. It also teaches us how to manifest, right? Because when we're in nature, we have to slow down. We have to be present. We observe. We look at the plants. We look at the animals. We look at the sky. We look at the sun. We're not thinking about the next thing on our to-do list. We're just being in the present moment. And so, yeah, I really had to slow down. Mind, physical, spiritual. And as I walked and walked, let my tears flow, started to do swimming, started to go in steam rooms and sauna rooms to strengthen my body, and in jacuzzis, I started to really notice a shift in my body. My physical well-being got stronger, my emotions felt better, and I realized that I hadn't been honoring me physically on what I needed and what were my desires, and respected my body. And when I started to do that, I started to feel better. And my weight started to go up because when I had my operation, from trauma, basically I wasn't able to put on the weight. And so then when I started doing all these things, my weight is slowly getting better. It's slowly getting back up. And I'm so grateful for that because I've missed that version of me, that sexy, curvy, just being free kind of person. And so, yeah, the last few months have just been a whirlwind. It's been a powerful healing. I have really come together to just really understand myself on a deeper level. It's also helped me with my clients to help them grow on a deeper level as well. And really immerse into the divine feminine, the sacred feminine, and really just embrace it. Because when we heal our trauma, we heal our life. When we heal our trauma, we heal our inner child, but it also helps us to meet the divine feminine within. It helps us to slow down that nature, that creativity, that freedom, that expression, that just being her badass self, but being in the flow. And that's what we're meant to be in. We're not meant to be in chaos. Chaos is just a reminder that we need to come back home to ourselves. We need to have the inner peace. We need to have the stillness. We need to have the medicine. But so many people are rushing to do the next big thing and the next thing, not realizing that chaos was a survival mechanism that they grew up with. And I know, hand on hand, I grew up with a survival mechanism because that's what it was. And I didn't know anything better. And so that survival mechanism became part of my life. It became part of my story. It's why I'm a former journalist, because I loved chaos. It's like, new story, new thing. What's the next thing? I don't want to do the same thing every day. Working in the pharmacy while studying. Oh my God, different stories. Oh my God, Like, my nervous system has always been in chaos from a child, because we moved a few times. So I grew up in Yorkshire. We moved to Scotland for a bit. Then we came back from Scotland, but we moved several times. And when you move around at such a young age, you don't feel safety and stability. Your parents are doing the best that they possibly could do, but also you, as a child, you don't have that safety feeling and stability. And then as you get older, that chaos is normal. You crave that chaos. You create in your work environment, your friendship circles, people around you, and also in a partner without realizing it. And so I had somehow manifested it in all areas of my life. I manifested it in my journalism career, my friendship circles that were always demanding and expecting so much of me at the time. And then I attracted it in a partnership. And I didn't know at the time that's what was happening. I thought that I was the issue, which partly yes, but also I was living from a wound that person was reminding me of, a wound that reminded me of some of the things that people hurt me in the past. They were mirroring that back to me, and it was like, oh my God. But actually, it was the biggest breakthrough that I needed. It was the biggest and best thing that's ever happened to me, because it taught me to come back home to myself. And I had always known myself, even after I got sick, even before I got sick. But a few years before, there was a lot going on, and both of us were losing ourselves through something that had happened to both of us. And it was an awful time that we both went through. And in the process, we lost each other. And I lost myself. And I know they lost themselves. And so there was so much anger and resentment and things and betrayal and people overstepping the mark on their side, thinking it's okay, like they had access to me when they never should have had access to me. And when I tried to hold boundaries, they carried on disrespecting me when I'm trying to hold boundaries so I can keep them in my life. And eventually I had to walk away, because when your mind peace disappears, that's when you know you have to go. And again, women, we wait so long hoping things to change, things to get better and better, but things won't get better if we keep sitting there. And again, I was this person, I will never tolerate this, blah, blah, blah. I don't get why people do that. And there I was tolerating things that I'd never tolerated before. But that's what happens when your heart expands and it grows and it's nourished. And you think you have trusting people around you, but actually when they start to show their true colors, which actually they show you their true colors in the beginning, but we ignore it because we've got the rose tinted glasses on. And then when they come off, then you're like, oh, so this is what I'm really meeting. So yeah, there has been a lot of clearing, a lot of healing, a lot of realizations. And it's taught me about the power of reclaiming your power. We all have to reclaim our power from within. And I'm so excited to share very, very soon. I have an amazing group program coming out, which is helping women to come back home to themselves. It's letting go of the people pleasing, the sacrificing, the girl, the inner child who feels hurt and shame, that's traumatized. And we're going to bring her truest, her baddest self and let go of the past and be in this loving, joyful, abundant, divine feminine energy that she deserves to be in. And I'll be sharing this very soon, by the way. I just want to keep it quiet for a little bit, but then I will let you know when it's out. But yes, I just want to honor you and remind you that no matter where you are right now, if you're in a toxic relationship, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling hurt, just remember things will get better. But go through that darkness, feel what you need to feel, let it out. Because when we don't feel it, it festers in the body. It becomes an illness, it becomes a sickness. But if we just let it out, we feel, deal and heal it, then we set ourselves free. And the beautiful thing that's been happening the last few weeks is every time I go for a walk, I'll see like 50 butterflies. And even today, this morning, oh my God, there was this beautiful red butterfly, but I didn't know it was a butterfly, and it looked like a little insect, and it was red, and it kept buzzing around me as I was walking, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then I got closer, I took a photo, and it kind of just lingered with me wherever I went, and it reminded me that I'm a butterfly, and that I'm here to evolve and expand and be this new version of myself. You know, again, we're always evolving in our ages. You know, when you're in your 20s, you're discovering yourself. In your 30s, you're really knowing who you truly are, and then so forth. So we're always evolving. We will never be the same person that we were yesterday. But if we choose to stay in the same places and do the same things, we will never grow and expand. And so these last few months have really taught me that I'm a butterfly. I love helping women. I love helping people. And I love traveling, and I'm meeting new people. That has always been within me. But what I needed to work on was the chaos that was coming up within me. I needed to come back home to myself. I needed to create the stillness and the grounding with myself. I needed to find that peace for myself so I could finally let go of what happened the last few years and remind myself that other people's behaviors and actions has nothing to do with me. It's not my job to control the situations or the environments, but what I do have control is myself and my environment. And as women, we tolerate so much. But I want to say to you, moving forward, why are you tolerating it? What is it from your childhood that has taught you this narrative that you need to tolerate it? And when are you going to let it go? Or how are you going to change this perspective that you have? Because the moment we change the perspective of what we have, the moment we set ourselves free. Now, I know where my betrayal, where a lot of these things came from, is from my culture and my upbringing, because I come from a South Asian background, and we are taught to people please and sacrifice and be a good old girl and smile at the aunties and uncles and hanji hanji, which means yes, yes, yes in Punjabi, and never speak up, never raise your voice. Be this respectable girl and respect your elders and do as you're told. And, you know, I started rebelling that when I started doing my inner work when I was 25. And here I'm in my close to more. I'm nearly 37 this year. And, you know, when I started doing the inner work, I started speaking up, holding boundaries. And my gosh, did it rock the boat. And so many so-called aunties and uncles did not like it. And if someone disrespected me and I spoke up, they did not like it. I was always the problem. And they'd go back to other people and tell other people how bad I am and how rude I am. But yet what they were doing was rude. But it was okay for them to say what they wanted, right? And so I knew that in my mind, I didn't want to attract somebody that had drama, or I didn't want to attract somebody who had family drama. I didn't want this. But it's funny how the universe creates things for us that we say we don't want. And that's why we should focus on what we do want. And so, yeah, things moved into my own personal life. And here I was tolerating things that I would never tolerate from anybody. And so it was teaching me a lesson that I needed to heal some of my deeper cultural, ancestral, familial, societal views, the patriarchal views of being this goody two-shoes as well, not just culturally, but patriarchal, for keeping the peace, for making people feel comfortable, for not raising my voice. And I just said enough is enough. And I had to work on that. And again, I'm just like, I don't care. I'm speaking my truth. Someone doesn't like it, it's okay. But I won't hurt somebody as I speak my truth. You know, being honest is so much better than telling lies. Because at the end of the day, when we're honest, people respect you for that. And, you know, I found myself in situations where people from my childhood and past came up and, you know, they were talking to me for a few years. And I kind of was like, And then I kind of just said some honesty things. And, you know, I'm a type of person that, you know, wants to be honest with people, and I just told them how they made me feel, what had happened, and I didn't get a response. But I even said in the voice note that I don't even mind if you don't give a response. But what it told me was, I don't align with these people anymore, because they don't want to even be honest with themselves to even have an honest conversation with me. And how can I expect them to be honest with me if they don't know how to be honest with themselves? And, you know, I really respect people that apologize and are just honest, because when we apologize, and it's not saying like it makes you bigger or better than anyone, but if we hurt someone, let's just be honest that we've hurt them and just say, I'm sorry I've hurt you. And let's find a way to just heal this. And let's be honest with people, because that sets you free. Like, I had one friend, my gosh, This was a few years ago. We were like sisters. We used to do crazy things together. Oh my God. Singing in the car, dancing, chocolate confession fountain. Oh my God. And just really crazy things. And I think both our families thought we were crazy together. We'd like dance and sing in the car together. And anyone who sat in the back would look at us like we were crazy. But we were just living our crazy, fun, best life. And you know, things change and, you know, things happen. And she always had my back, but sometimes it came across as aggressive. And I grew up with some similar pattern where aggression was really a trigger for me. And I would shut down and I wouldn't always say what was on my mind. And the friendship ended up souring. These things happen. And they stopped speaking to me, which really hurt me for years. And I'd let it go. And then out of the blue, a few years later, she just contacted me. And I was like, oh. And as she called me, I kind of went, ooh, and I became defensive. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even realize how much this had affected me. And there's something about me, and I don't know what it is out there, guys, but people, when they stop speaking to me or we stop having conversations, I think it's like, especially women, it's like they've broken up with a partner. It's really, really strange. But they were like, oh my God, it was like losing a partner and I missed you. And I was like, oh my God, it's so weird. But because there's so much depth and honesty in the friendship, that is why sometimes we feel like that, you know. And we talked things out. She apologized, I apologized, and, you know, the friendship will never be the same again, but the respect is there. You know, we've both moved on with our lives, we're both different now, but, you know, for the first time she could understand a lot of the things that I was going through back then, whereas back then I felt quite judged and not understood. And, you know, I guess I judged things about her as well back then, and I now really understand it as well. And, you know, we do have conversations are very heart to heart and very understanding. And yeah, the fact that she just came out and apologized, like, you have no idea, you know, honestly, how powerful that is. Talking to another sister who might not be your actual sister, but apologizing shifts so many different situations in your life. It will set you free. It will set them free. And I think if we were just open with our hearts and just being honest to how we hurt each other, we're able to move forward in our life. And I think a lot of people just hold on to that anger and resentment. And you see it in the older generation. They're holding on to anger and resentment, my gosh, from when they were like 18 and this uncle did this to me and I'll never talk to him again. And then every time they see that uncle, they're still angry at them. Who holds on to that poison? The uncle hasn't held on to the poison. The uncle's just living his best life, but that auntie's just held on to it. And she's held on to it, and then she might spew that to her kids, and then her kids then see them in a different light. And I think that's so wrong. That, you know, especially the elders, if they have issues, do not reflect it onto the kids. Do not ruin the relationships those kids can have, because it's between you two, not between the kids. But too often, within my culture especially, they hold on to it and make it an issue that it shouldn't be. And what have they done? They've damaged those relationships, and they will go off and, you know, they'll leave this world one day, and those kids will then have to have the anger from that generation. Then it leads to another generation. What a waste of energy and time. If we were just honest and say, you hurt me and I'm sorry, you know, people would be a lot happier and a lot healthier. And I know that when I forgave myself and I forgave others in 2012, oh my God, that changed my life around. And for some of you who don't know, like, I had gone through some crazy things way before this. I'd had a cancer scare, I had an eating disorder, I had depression, I had so many different things growing up. And when I had the cancer scare and they misdiagnosed me, that is when my shift happened overnight. That is when I heard it's time to heal as I ran out of the hospital. That is when I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, I love myself. And I cried and bawled my eyes out for hours, meeting this newer version, the truer version of me. I wrote 30 pages in 7 hours and I saw all my patterns and behaviors and why I was the way I was. That was my biggest rebirth at that time. But what it did is it taught me to forgive others. And I called up some people didn't respond. And I started to forgive people. And I kid you not, the moment I forgave, my heart expanded exponentially. It brought in new people, new situations, new opportunities, growth, and just an amazing journey that I will always be grateful for. And again, when I got sick, I think I stopped forgiving as much. I was forgiving, but I think I was holding on to some things that I didn't realize because I had to mourn a life I'd created, suddenly gone overnight. And here I was stuck with this version of me that didn't really have enough energy, was tired, was literally fighting to to live, and fighting against consultants and doctors to figure out what was going on, having to figure things out. Suddenly it was draining. And then when I took my power back and I started to get better, I remember I just cried and cried. And what happened is I never had time to breathe like I had before. Because when you're sick, you're constantly in survival mode. You're trying to get better. And again, this is the physical aspect that I was mentioning earlier. I cleared the mind, I cleared spiritually, but the physical aspect I never had done. So the kidney issue was actually teaching me to physically purge, physically cleanse. And it was my kidney as well, which kidney stores fear. Kidney holds emotions. Kidneys hold energy. And I had so much energy that was stuck in my body and it had to let go. And again, it took years for it to clear. You know, from 2018 to, let's say, 2021, 2021, I was at the darkest points of my life. But I did my deepest growth then. I created my deepest programs then because I had to meet myself. I couldn't run away. I had to deal with the chaos. And I had to really look from within. And it was the best work I've ever created. It's one of the programs that I have on here called the Infinite Trust Method and the Rise Up Sister. Those are my biggest births because those are part of my stories, that everything I learned in the space of 7 to 8 years, I now teach that in 4 months. And again, I had to go through this dark metamorphosis feeling to really honor that side. And I'm quite a happy, joyful person, by the way. Like, I love just being happy and free, but, you know, I had to face the darkness and I had to honor that. And as I faced the darkness about relationships, who I was, what I was becoming, the future, the version of me, I had to forgive that. I had to forgive the physical aspect. I had to forgive it all. I had to strengthen myself again. And, you know, here I am. I'm back. I'm happier. I'm healthier. I'm balanced. I feel more connected with myself. I've slowed down. The stillness is within me. The chaos is gone. And it's so interesting because I would have never become this version of me had those things not happened. I would have never took my power back in ways that I didn't even realize. And the interesting thing is, the moment I left, two of my health conditions went. You know, environment is everything. Emotions is everything. And sometimes the environments we're in are actually draining us. They're not providing us with energy. They're not nourishing ourselves. And we're not being nourished, then what are we doing? Right? You can give people second chances, but it's about nourishment for both. And if one side is taking more, then there's an issue. But yeah, I'm so grateful for this journey and where I am right now. And I'm just so grateful for the person that I've become, because I would never have become this person. And I just feel that sometimes when we think our biggest heartbreak is going to hurt us, it's going to be our biggest rebirth. And we get to be whoever we want to be. We get to meet people, new situations, new beings. We get to meet a newer version of ourselves. And how powerful is that? You know, some people in this lifetime don't even do that work to look within and reflect. They stay stuck in these old cycles and patterns and they never move forward. And here you are breaking these cycles and patterns and meeting this newer version, this highest version, this connection to the universe, to God. Like, my gosh, what a miracle that is. What a blessing that is. You know, the divine created you as, the divine created you for a reason the way you are. And it's about honoring that. If we keep following what other people say we need to become or behave, or the family's expectations of how we need to act and behave, we're not being true to God. We're not being true to what God created us as. Yet there's this whole authority that we are parents, or we are family members, or we are extended family members, or we are your friends. No, we're not here to follow what they say. And I'm not saying don't take advice. Like, it's always good to take advice from people, from loved ones. But there's a difference between advice and manipulation. Now, if they're playing a game to manipulate you to be part of something or to do something you don't want to do, that's the problem. That's not God. That's not talking through God. You know, we're all part of God's source universe's energy. We're all here to support one another. But if someone's manipulating somebody in order to get something for self-interest, that is not God talking. That's controlling. That's manipulation. That's gaslighting. That's narcissistic abuse in some elements. I know the term narcissist has become huge out there, by the way, but not everyone is a narcissist. Some people just have complex upbringing. Some people have, interesting environments, but not everyone is a narcissist. A narcissist is a particular kind of character, which we'll be talking about on the show another time. But, you know, when we are damaging people around us for that to try and benefit things for ourselves, that is selfish. And that's what a lot of cycles, especially within my culture, do. Parents know better, or that family member knows better. They'll say, but what they're doing is they're trying to manipulate you into a pattern that's been happening generational, especially like within women of my culture. You must not speak up, you know, do this, but you need to be educated. I don't have an opinion. Like, it's so contradicting. Like, I grew up so confused. Okay, so have a degree, be educated, you know, work hard, but then don't have a voice and people please and sacrifice. You're literally confusing your child. You know, they're going to have depression. They're going to have anxiety because they don't know how to be their true self, because 1 minute they're trying to be successful and 1 minute you're trying to tell them to dim their light. You know, we're all here to shine our light bright. If we're telling people how to stop being themselves, we are removing their connection to source, to God energy. And I don't believe that's the right thing for people to do, because you're taking the power away. And everyone has power. Everyone has an inner light. You know, that's why I've called it the Inner Light Project, because we all have a beautiful light within us, but it's trusting in that. And sometimes people want to take that inner light from other people. And it's happened to me on so many occasions, people around me, situations that I've had, when I used to go to events, things like this. And they want my light. And they're like, oh my God, I want your light. Oh my God, you've got this bright light. Oh, can I put you to a grid and take your energy? And, you know, back then I'd be like, oh, that's sweet. Now I'm like, whoa, that's dangerous. That's somebody that doesn't know how to look at their own light from within, to work with their darkness and come back home to their inner light. You know, all of us can meet that self, but not many people are willing to do the work to meet themselves. They'd rather take energy from others people. That's why they're called energy vampires or energy zappers. But we all have a light from within, and we all need to trust in that, you know? And that was something I was for that person at the time, their extended family members. My light was what they wanted. They were drawn to it. They wanted to take it. Everybody was like, oh, how she got this energy, even she's sick, you know? And it took me a long time to realize that actually that wasn't for my higher self. That was a draining environment, which was toxic and was draining the fuck out of me. And the moment I walked away, my health, my gosh, everything, my thought process, my well-being came back. There was a peace element. And so I just want you to just sit back and remember that nobody's bad. Like even when I look back at people in my life, no one's bad. People just have unhealed wounds and unhealed traumas that they need to work on and heal. And when they work on it, then they come back to their truest, higher self. We all have this beautiful light. And I want to remind you that you have this beautiful light within you. And you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be healthy. You deserve to be free. You deserve to be joyful and be in that inner peace and that bliss and that abundance. You know, you're not here to suffer. Suffering is part of the journey, but it's not the end. It's temporary. And when we remember that things are temporary, then we take our power back. But yes, I just wanted to be honest with you guys, where I've been, what's been going on, and just remind you that I'm back. And there's going to be more beautiful episodes where I'll be sharing lots of things. As usual, there'll be guests on the show, and I will share my journey every month with different topic. But I'm just so grateful to be back here with you all and share this medicine with you all. And I truly hope that in your life that everything is working for your highest good. And just trust in the process that everything will work out, because it always does. Unfortunately, that's the end of the show. Before I leave, I want to leave you with this quote. There can be no rebirth without a dark night of the soul, a total annihilation of all that you believed in and thought that you were. That's a quote by Vilayant Jannat Khan. Now, if you're struggling to transform trauma and want to learn to trust yourself so you can powerfully move forward in your life and be in your divine feminine power, then visit my website at www.gurdshundal.com and look at my program, The Infinite Trust Method. This is where I teach you in 4 months how to let go of ancestral, cultural, society, familiar patterns. We look at where your self-love stems from, how to create a stronger bond with that, boundaries, masculine and feminine energy, so much more that helps you to come back home to yourself. And if you're drawn to it, just fill out the form and let's talk. And remember, stay happy, stay healthy, stay lit.